In this video, I'm going to show you how to take the basic Tong Blanks that I forged in the last video and turn them into a working pair of tongs. So in the first video, you're forging out the reins of the tongs as an exercise to hone your hammering skills and to get used to hammering out basic shapes. So when you feel you're ready, you can move on to this video and make actual pairs of tongs. It's not difficult work, but it does require some attention to detail, and that's a little easier to manage if you're not struggling with basic techniques. This is one of the blanks that I forged in the last video, and I'm just getting ready to forge the transition from the reins into the hinge area. So I'm basically after something that looks like this. I'm going to be taking the original bar thickness and flattening out that section to form the hinge for the tongs. And because I'm going to be flattening out that section over the edge of the anvil, I'm also marking out the transition from the hinge area to the jaws of the tongs. This is a pretty critical measurement when you're making tongs, and it's really important to get that length exactly right. Otherwise, the two halves won't match up and they'll look very amateurish. However, the problem with forging that area is that the length of the hinge has to be the same as the width of that hinge, and you don't really know what that is until you forge it out. So if you commit too early to where that transition needs to be to the jaws, you may fall short, or you may wind up having a hinge area that's too long. So what I'm doing here is I'm starting to hammer down this section in stages. I'm working on a rounded corner of my anvil, so the transition is very soft, and if I need to move it a bit, I have that option. So at the moment the transition is a little bit short of where it needs to be, but I'm flattening down the area and trying to get an idea of how wide it's going to end up. Once I get close to my final thickness, I can judge the width of the hinge area, and that allows me to measure the length of it, so I can move over to the sharper edge of my anvil and define that transition exactly where it needs to be. So once the hinge area is done, the final forging operation is to hammer out the jaws. And for that, I'm just lining up the offset that define the transition from the hinge areas to the jaws with the edge of the anvil. And once again, I'm just forging enough to let me know where that transition is going, and then I'm comparing that with the other half of the tongs that I forged earlier. By simply marking the location of the offset and comparing that with the other half of the pair of tongs, I will be able to make any fine adjustments that I need if I'm off a little bit. And just one last check before I go ahead and finish the tongs. Here I'm just going over everything and lightly cleaning up any hammer marks, and again trying to make the two halves match up as closely as possible. For this pair of tongs, I'm going to be using a round punch to make the rivet hole. And it basically just goes right in the center of that hinge area. I'm going to be using a short length of bar stock for the rivet. And I always use a very light hammer to set the rivet. Small rivets upset very easily, and a light hammer lessens the chance of bending or distorting the rivet. While everything's riveted tight, I'm going to take a few seconds to align the jaws, and then I'll loosen up the reins and free up the rivet. And here's the completed pair of tongs. The jaws I left a little long because I haven't quite decided what I'm going to use these for. I'll probably turn them into ring tongs, but if I decide to leave them as flat bit tongs, I'll be cutting off about half of the length on these jaws. Hi, I'm Dennis, and thanks for watching. If you're interested in supporting this channel, the simplest way, of course, is to like, comment, and subscribe. If you have questions and you want to contact me directly, you can do so by emailing me at either one of the addresses that I have listed here. It may take me a couple of days, but I will get back to you. Of course, financial support is always welcome. The only product that I produce is the information contained in these free videos. So if you like the work that I'm doing and the videos that I'm putting out, and you can spare a couple of dollars a month, consider becoming a patron by clicking the orange Patreon logo at the bottom of the screen. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.